All right, I'm the flat rate master, and are you being quietly fired? Asking for a friend. If you haven't been on a bunch of social media sites like TikTok, you probably don't understand what quiet firing and quiet quitting are, so I'm going to explain them real quick and then we'll get into the video. Quietly quitting is basically you half-heartedly do your job while you look for another job. Not a new concept, a new name though. Quietly fired is where management does things to you to make you quit. And we're going to talk about those specific to our industry. And keep in mind, neither of these are, well, new. They've gone on forever. By the way, we're not going to talk about quietly quitting. If you're quietly quitting, get a new job. Just get a new job. But anyway, we're going to talk about quietly firing somebody. And here is, well, the big negative about flat rate. This is one of the biggest ones that gets talked about a lot, and it is an issue. And it comes down to things like favoritism. Now, this is a big problem with our industry and flat rate, but it also happens with other pay systems. Keep in mind, hourly with commission, salary with commission. You know, if you're hourly and you get fed all the BS and your numbers look like junk, you might get fired instead of being quietly fired. You want to get rid of somebody, you basically stop giving them anything they can make money on. You know, you give them all the BS tickets, you give them all the batteries, all the, waiter oil changes, all the BS tickets that you can't make money on. You know, you keep giving them, oh, splash seal damaged. Oh, yeah, because, I'm going to bill a bunch of hours on a splash shield that the guy's probably just going to tell me to throw in the trash. They just keep feeding you all that garbage tickets and your hours just continue to drop and drop and drop. That's the worst part about flat rate, is that is an issue. I am admitting it, that this is a huge problem. That's one of my biggest issues with the industry in general, people in general, is favoritism and them, doing stuff like that. My goal for everybody in the upper shop is to keep them as busy as I can with the cars I get. If anybody in the shop doesn't have work, it should be me. If we're low on tickets, trust me, I've handed away sold work. I've sold on a car that I worked on, gave it to another tech because they had nothing. In this shop, if there's no work, it's me that doesn't have it. Now, one of the things we do in this shop is if you have history with the car, it goes back to you. Well, I've got the most history of anybody because I've been here the longest, i.e. since we opened. And I've made 50, 60 hours just on those history cars. Haven't touched a virgin car all week, i.e. a car with no history, and made 50, 60 hours just because I've got customers that have broken cars. There's other ways that a shop can quietly fire you as well. If you're hourly, the same thing can apply. They can give you all those junk tickets and then call you in the office repeatedly going, why are your hours so low? Why are your hours so low? We're paying you this much money. You should be producing this much. Why aren't you producing this much? Seen it. I haven't always been in charge of every shop I've worked at. And I've seen it. I got called into the office at one shop I worked at because I was only billing 50 hours. Keep in mind, I was doing most of the diag, most of the programming, and most of the nightmare cars, and they were wondering why I was only billing 50 hours. Now it's flat rate, but I got called in the office to get complained about billing more hours than I was still there, but it wasn't enough. Just an example, but again, yes, that stuff can happen to hourly techs. They can harass you when you're, not doing enough and make it a generally toxic environment. That's one of the things about being quietly fired. They can make it a toxic environment towards you to make you want to quit. It's cheaper for them to get you to quit because they don't have to pay unemployment. You know, depending on the state you work in, depending on those laws, regardless of why you got fired, you may get unemployment. So it makes sense to get you to quit. And that's the big thing about quietly being fired, is somebody's pulling strings trying to make you leave. And it sucks. Chances are it's not going to get any better unless something changes uphill, so it might be time to just move on. So some of the other things you can look out for is, the favoritism, looking at who gets what tickets, why they get what tickets. Now, there's some skill issues involved. Whenever I assign tickets, I have to make sure the technician that is getting that ticket is capable of doing it as far as abilities, as well as time constraints. It has been a problem in this industry for many, many, many years. And yes, it is very closely associated with flat rate, but it happens in every kind of pay system. They just do it in different ways. You may be hourly, but you still have to produce enough to justify your pay. And one of the ways they can deal with that is to harass you about not making your numbers, making you want to quit. Because, getting called in the office every week about your hours sucks. So, hope this video was helpful. As always, thanks for watching. I am the Flat Rate Master.